Okay boys, this is the sheet that you should have completed before watching this video. If you haven't, then pause the video and go and have a proper go yourself first. So there are these 10 sentences. Firstly, you needed to find the PPP inside them, the perfect passive participle, and underline them. And then you need to translate each one. Before you start watching the answers, just check with each sentence, have you firstly found the PPP, but secondly, figured out which noun the PPP is describing. So I've mentioned before, and it also says in these notes at the top, that these participles, just like any participle, are very much like an adjective. So that means that they are describing some kind of noun within each sentence. So check that you've considered which noun each participle is describing. So in this example up here where I've said verbum scriptum, that there tells us that scriptum is describing verbum. I mean, look at the endings, they match with each other. So that tells us that it's the word that's having been written. And obviously in that translation there, the word having been written sounds a bit strange, so you can also write it as just the written word. Okay, let's go through the answers, see how you did. So the first one then, pecuniam in via inventam habeo. So firstly, inventam is your PPP, okay? You know that because the start of it is from the verb invenio, I find, and then the ending, am, is a feminine accusative singular ending. This word is also in the list of common perfect passive participles that you should have written down. If you haven't, then let me know and I'll send you that sheet again. And then you know you've got those written down. If you learn those, it makes these sentences a lot easier. So we found the PPP. Which word does it agree with? Well, it's got the same ending as this word here, pecuniam. So it must be describing the money. So let's translate it. Now, those two words are accusative, so we're not going to start with them. So let's look at the verb habeo, I have. And then we have our accusative, pecuniam, the money. And then your PPP, because that describes the money. So having been found, or if you prefer, you can just say found in the street. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, firstly, find the PPP. It's this guy here. You'll see, again, that's on the list of common PPPs that we should have learned. It's from the verb eubeo. So it doesn't look as much like the verb here. It's a bit of an irregular one. But you just have to get used to that word. It turns up a lot in Latin. The Romans are always ordering each other to do stuff. So eubeo means I order. And then the ending of iossi is, well, it's either nominative masculine plural, or it could be genitive masculine singular. So let's have a look at the rest of the sentence. Well, you've got a nominative masculine plural here. So it's probably going to be the case that it's the citizens having been ordered. So let's translate the whole sentence. Well, as we've established that kivas and iossi are both nominative, let's start with them this time. So the citizens having been ordered fugere to flee, fecerunt made iter a journey, sine periculo, without danger. Okay, so that was number two. Number three, let's find the PPP. So what looks like a verb at the start, but a noun or an adjective at the end. Well, it's not cibum, that means food. It's not horso, that's garden. It might be relictum. Can't be consumpsimus because that is a verb. It ends like a verb, it starts like a verb, it's a verb. So relictum is your answer here because it's from the verb relinquo, I leave behind. But the ending, relictum, is masculine accusative singular. What else is masculine accusative singular? Kibble. So it must be describing the food. But we don't start with those two words because they're accusatives. So look at the verb, consumpsimos. We ate. Kibum relictum, the food, having been left behind. Or if you prefer, you can just say left behind in the garden. Okay. Number 4, the PPP this time is captam. The start of it comes from the verb capio, I capture, and the ending is feminine accusative singular, like an adjective. We've got another feminine accusative singular here, urbem. Not as obvious this time because the endings don't match, because herbs belongs to the third declension, whereas PPPs follow the first or the second declension. So their endings are going to look different, but they're still the same case, number and gender. So as they're accusative, we won't start with them. We do have a nominative here, however, hostes, so the enemy. Incenderunt, burnt or set on fire, the city, having been captured, or maybe a neater translation would just be the enemy burnt the captured city. That would be nice as well. Okay, number 5. The PPP this time is visum. So you'll notice a lot of the PPPs are easy to spot because they have a t in them. So captam, relictum, inventam. But Yussi from number 2 and this one visum, they're a bit more irregular, so they're a bit harder to spot. But visum is from the verb video, I see. And it's accusative, masculine singular, just like this word here, the horse. Let's not start with it because it's accusative, so there's no nominative. Let's start with the verb then. Constitui, I decided. Emere, to buy. The horse, having been seen, or just seen, yesterday, Harry. Okay. Halfway there. Okay, so let's look at number 6. The PPP is right at the end. Iactos. Okay, this one is from the verb iachio, I throw. Okay, and it's nominative, masculine, singular. And so is this word. Again, they don't look the same because liber's nominative doesn't end in an us. It ends in an er, so it's a little bit confusing, but we should know that liber is the nominative of the word book. Okay, now we've got kurios, which is one of these words that we've met this term. It's one of those annoying little pronouns. It ends in eos. Remember, pronouns that end in eos are genitive. And kurios is from qui. So that word literally means of whom. So in nicer English, we can just say whose. Erat, liber, whose was the book. Iactos, having been thrown, or just thrown into the water. If you translated it as of whom was the book thrown into the water, that's fine, it just sounds a little bit strange. Number 7, the PPP this time is the one that's mentioned at the top of the notes, scriptam. But whereas in the notes it was scriptos, it was masculine, scriptam is feminine and it's also accusative. Another feminine accusative word is epistulam. Okay, so the translation would be Uxor, the wife, non poterat, was not able, legere, to read, epistulam scriptam, the letter. I'm going to be lazy here, so it would mean the letter having been sent, but I'm just going to put sent because they mean the same thing, by Sene, the old man. Okay. Number 8, the PPP is deletum. This is from the verb deleo. Oops, I destroy. So we get the word delete from. And look at the ending, deletum, agrees with templum. This time it's neuter, singular, and it could be nominative or accusative because as we know, those two look the same when it's a neuter noun. So let's look at the verb. Well, the verb is vidimus, we saw. So it's unlikely that the temple is going to be nominative here because the temple can't be a we, so it's going to be accusative. Okay. So misery means miserable or sad. So we, miserable, saw, templum deletum, the temple. And then you could say having been destroyed or just destroyed. And in fact, you don't even need that comma there. We, miserable, saw the temple destroyed. Or you could say saw the destroyed temple. That would be even nicer. Okay, that's probably the trickiest thing about these PPPs is figuring out how to move them around so that your sentence keeps the grammar intact, but obviously sounds nice in English. Okay, number 9. The participle this time is conspectum. This is from conspicio, I catch sight of, or I notice. Okay, it's accusative, and so is amicum. So the verb will start with this time, I greeted. And then it literally means the friend having been noticed. Okay. It's tricky to put that one into nice English, so we could write it just like that, and you would get all the marks. If you wanted to go really fancy and make this really nice English, you could change this to, I greeted the friend whom I had noticed. But the problem with that is things become a little bit more complicated because the perfect passive participle has to happen before the verb and the verb's already perfect. So if you're going to translate the participle as if it's like a verb, it needs to become pluperfect. Don't worry if that goes way over your head. Just stick to this straightforward translation instead. Okay, number 10. This time the PPP is motum, from moveo, I move. And the translation, and that agrees with this word, gladium, because they're both masculine accusative, singular. So the translation is non potui, I was not able, invenire, to find, and then your accusatives, the sword, motum, moved, or having been moved, ate, by you. So there are your answers, boys. Check over those. Doesn't matter if you've gone wrong, as long as you understand where to go right next time you do this sort of thing. This grammar is not easy at all.